Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build Thursday Night Football Edition. I am Kevin, getting ready to walk over the Showdown slate over at DraftKings for the Bills-Texans game. It is an ugly one, just a 43.5 total. Bills almost touchdown favorites. So if you want to avoid this one, I can totally understand that, and I get it. But there's money to be made per usual. We just got to find a way to get a little bit different, and we just got to hit on our plays. I'm going to walk you through my favorite plays for the slate. If you want my finalized plays, you can hit up dfsbuild.com and get my top captain plays and GPP plays. I'm going to go over a lot of it in this video for free, but of course, leading into the slate, I will finalize and update things as needed to help you out. And of course, we do NBA every single day. We do a bunch of NFL posts for the week. So just $5.99 for the entire month for everything that we do. Great deal. So be sure to take advantage of that. And right now, if you have not joined Sleeper yet and you like to play on player over-unders, you can join for 100% match if you use our code BUILD, B-U-I-L-D, right now. Okay, so if I help you out in any way, you can just give it back for free with a like or subscribe, or join our Discord to help build a community there. None of that costs you anything. If you want to do the $5.99 a month, you can absolutely do that as well. All right, so let's get to it. The way I do this is I just look at the captain slot, and because I think that's obviously the most important position of the slate, we want to get that right, and we want to find value if it's there. And then we kind of worked our way down and just see who should we want to play in the captain slot the most? Who should we at least be considering in the captain slot? And, are there any punts that we might want to do to open things up and just stack up the lineup here, and also talk strategy as far as which way we want to lean, Bills, Texans, and, what kind of exposure we want to get to. So let's get to it here. Up top projection, and very much so the top ownership is Josh Allen, and that is not surprising. I talk about this a lot on Showdown breakdowns, where Josh Allen, anytime it's a Josh Allen slate, he is the chalk captain, and it's by miles. Usually it's 25%, and right now we're pulling 35% ownership. This is an ugly slate where the Texans have the number one scoring defense in the league. It's a short week in Houston, so there is actually a reason to believe Josh Allen could lay an egg here. So if you want to go underweight on Josh, you can. At the same time, Houston's offense is not very good. They don't have C.J. Stroud in the lineup. And the Bills are just kind of in a volatile setting here. So I do think Josh Allen is obviously the safest play we can do here. I would build most of my lineups with Josh Allen in the captain. I just would work really hard to find a way to get different. Maybe we're pairing him with, two guys from Buffalo. Maybe we're just playing Josh and then stacking Texans. Maybe we're playing, Josh with somebody that nobody is looking at. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But whatever the case, most of the field, or a good chunk of the field, is going to be on Josh Allen. That's not, an interesting take. But it also is just the safest one with the highest floor and highest ceiling. So I don't have any issue with eating that chalk. You just got to make sure you're probably doing at least two things different from the field so you don't get duped. But it doesn't look good. It's not a really good matchup. They've been decent against mobile quarterbacks. They don't give up a lot of points in general. They're the number 3 run defense in the league. So nothing here really looks great. Although I think the fact that they're so good against the run kind of works against James Cook a little bit more. Plus, they have a really good pass rush. So I think Josh Allen could get flushed out of the pocket more. We could see him run more, take off, and kind of be an extension of the ground game. So I don't need to give you a big sales pitch about Josh Allen. I just think of all the options here, he just naturally is the safest. So meeting the field or going over the field on Josh Allen, the captain, this is one of the rare times where I am okay with that completely. And I don't think we have to go look for some massive leverage in the captain slot. That said, I'll just be 100% exposed to Josh Allen anyways. I suppose because of the matchup and because injuries happen, you can go underweight if you want to. But if I was building a single entry or just playing one lineup, probably captaining Josh Allen. That said, let's look for leverage opportunities. The first one would be James Cook, but like I said, it's not really a good spot at all. I would much rather take a shot on Josh Allen, getting out of the pocket and running. He had 3 rushing touchdowns last week, 6 total touchdowns. He's just an unstoppable force. So if the Texans are going to struggle here, it's probably going to be containing Josh Allen and not containing James Cook. James Cook, he does have a lower floor than you'd like, but he does have a ceiling. He is explosive. He could easily come in here and bust a 7-yard run or score 2 or 3 times. We've seen that happen before. I don't think this is the setting for that to happen. So I would be underweight on him, especially at this 13% captain ownership. Good play in a vacuum, just not the guy I think is going to break this slate. And I just don't even think you're getting enough leverage to be that excited about it anyways. Nico Collins, that is one that I would gravitate towards. That is the first guy here that I think offers an immense ceiling, has an okay enough matchup, and isn't like egregiously owned. So if he's going to be less owned than James Cook and a third owned of, he's going to get a third of the ownership that Josh Allen is, sign me up for that. Nico Collins has been very good, even with Davis Mills under center, if not better than when CJ Stroud was under center. So 24 plus fantasy points his last 2 games. That looks great. Let's keep doing that. So if he's going to be that low owned compared to Josh Allen and just about the same owned as Cook, I'm all Nico when it comes to those guys. After that, we have a pretty significant drop off in terms of ownership. And then the projection starts to taper off as well. But Davis Mills is very interesting in this game for a couple of reasons. First, I don't think the matchup is that bad. The Bills are really bad on the ground against the run. The 31st against the run. They give up the 12th most rushing touchdowns to running backs. So obviously if Houston can get their run game going, like they are very pass happy, but if they can get their run game going, I think that would benefit Davis Mills immensely. He does have a rushing floor. He popped off 2 weeks ago with 32 fantasy points. And he still was decent last week with 16 fantasy points. So that rushing floor gives him a little bit more of a ceiling than people are going to, anticipate. And maybe they're just going to expect him to lay a goose egg here. But hey, prime time, short week at home, I think Davis Mills looks pretty damn good. And at 5% ownership in the captain, I'm going to be way over on that. It's going to be a little bit difficult, like figuring out how to get unique as far as stacking up with him. Like if you play Nico, like Nico's still going to be owned in the captain. Then you can play Mills, but I'd imagine he's going to be relatively decently owned in the flex. I don't think we need to go out of our way that much if we captain Mills, though. 5% captain Mills, pair him with Nico probably, go get Josh Allen, and then, this is what we're looking at. Let's just do it as we go. Naturally, the most I got to kick it to flex if I want to do that. The most natural pairing is Nico, and go get Josh. Like that to me, I think in general, that's a really good core. Like, I don't really believe in true cores for Showdown slates. Like, if you're going to play Showdown, you should probably just roll like 20 max, 150 max if you can. And then you just give yourself a ton of paths to winning, right? But, like, if you're going to play single entry and you want to fade Josh Allen in a captain, just kick him over to flex, and we can do a Davis Mills, pretty much unowned captain with a Nico stack. And you don't have a lot of money left to roll with only 4K. You got to start going down here dumpster diving. But there are values to like Christian Kirk, Dawson Knox, no Dalton Kincaid, Nick Chubb at 3-2, and some of these other guys that are very risky, but we can take a shot on them. Like if Buffalo is not going to feature Keon Coleman once again, we can take a shot on Gabe Davis. 7 fantasy points last game against the Buccaneers. He has a history with Buffalo, obviously. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Like, what does that look like if we go get Gabe Davis? Maybe go back and get a run back to double up on that Davis Mills captain. And then you're looking at, 6-6 here. So we could go get, like, Dalton Schultz and just a mega Houston stack. Now, is this the lineup I'm saying you have to play? No, absolutely not. I'm just giving you an idea of, hey, we can go get Davis Mills with Nico. We can still get Josh Allen, and then we can get Josh Allen, a guy with Gabe Davis, and then we can go complete the stack with Houston. Now, everything has to go just right, but that is not something that's going to be owned. Like, nobody's really coming out here and going 4 Texans deep, their entire passing game and all that. So it's just something that you can definitely consider in tournaments. Okay, so a guy's going to be a little bit chalkier than Davis Mills. It's going to be Khalil Shakur because obviously Keon Coleman did not play in the last game. He was deactivated. So he's going to be a little bit popular. Very low floor and not really the best ceiling in the world because Buffalo really spreads the ball around. So I think Shakur does have a little bit of upside as far as he's kind of their number one receiver. No Kincaid. Coleman is like AWOL. So just because of those reasons, I think we can definitely consider him. Don't really love the price of 12K. Don't really love the ceiling. But if you want to kick Josh to the flex and get a little bit different, but not take like major risk, I think he's an okay captain. Just not the first captain that I'm running to. I'm not seeing like, monster leverage with that. Like if I'm going to pay there and not get like obscene leverage with the ownership, I just would rather go Nico or Mills or just, save even more cash and like round my lineup out so I'm not taking a punt like Jalen Noel or something like that. So another guy I'm very interested in is Woody Marks. Now, he's not going to be captain very much for the very clear reason that he is super inconsistent, has a very low floor. And the ceiling is not that great either, admittedly. But the matchup is sublime. The Bills have given up the most touchdowns to running backs on the year, and they rank 31st against the run. If Houston doesn't like to run for whatever reason, or they just can't because their offensive line, but the matchup demands it. Like, this is a very good matchup. So I can certainly see Woody Marks getting going, and at 3% ownership of the captain, I'm going to be all over that. I like that quite a bit. So like him and Davis Mills right away stand out as two amazing leverage options in the captain. And then you can get into the conversation of like, if I'm captaining Woody Marks, do I need Davis Mills? Or if I'm captaining Davis Mills, am I really going to go chase down Woody Marks and force him in? It just depends on like how aggressive you want to be and like on how you think it's going to correlate within that Houston stack. I probably would split them up. It seems a little bit unlikely that Davis Mills would smash and Woody Marks would smash. I'd probably target either the Texans passing game as they're coming back from trailing, or I would target Woody Marks in the game where Houston surprisingly is winning the game. But you can pair them if you can fit it. It's not the worst thing in the world. I just think like in the flex, let's just check it out. In the flex, Woody's gonna be 31% owned. Davis Mills is 37% owned. So you're not gaining like monster leverage by having both of them in your lineup, but you are gaining leverage by captaining one of them. Obviously, a bit more so with Woody. Dalton Schultz remains involved, 18 and 11 fantasy points the last two games, 11 plus in 3 straight. They're getting a little bit healthier at wide receiver, but he's still going to be pretty involved. So I have no problem with him. A little bit expensive for the captain spot, but he's not going to be owned there. So if you want to captain him and play Mills with him on the other side, that's fine. DK is a full PPR site, so you can certainly do that. This is a Thursday night football game. Short week, low total, one very good defense on one side. So we can absolutely consider Matt Prater. We can absolutely consider Fairbairn. And we can absolutely consider the defenses. I would rather reserve them for the flex just because the ceilings are not going to be massive. But we have seen kicker duels before, and we have seen in primetime setting lately some really stinker, low-scoring affairs. There was the 10-7 game between the Broncos and Raiders, the 10-7 game between the Packers and Eagles, and the 16-9 game between the Lions and the Eagles. So can this be a 13-10 game? Almost definitely, So should have interest in the kickers and the defenses. And if you want to captain them, I'm actually not against it at all because we certainly could be heading in that direction. And both the defenses are going to start out with more points than anybody on the slate right away. And the kickers are probably not the highest ceiling guys, but certainly the safest plays on the board to actually get points. Josh Palmer is a shot in the dark just because we don't know what the status of Keon Coleman is. Even if Keon Coleman is active, are they even going to trust him and let him play? I don't know. Very low floor, no real ceiling, but if Coleman's not in there, he is a guy who is going to run routes and have a shot. And plus, since Houston's so good against the run, I just would naturally gravitate towards some Bills passing game weapons because that's probably the best way for them to succeed in this matchup. Jaden Higgins continues to get burned. He's been pretty good in the last few games here, 9.5 plus fantasy points in 3 of his last 4. I like that. 6.9K, a little bit steep for the captain slot based off of his actual ceiling here, but they're giving him more and more work. He's not going to be owned, and compared to the other guys in captain, he's pretty cheap. So I do not mind him at all. Already talked about the kickers and the defenses. Keon Coleman is interesting if he's active and if we can trust that he's actually going to play. I mean, he's even more interesting if we can't trust that he's going to play a lot because then nobody will want to play him. He is a super talented player who can absolutely nuke the slate. It's still not a good matchup, but can Keon Coleman bust a big play or score 2 touchdowns? Absolutely. So we saw it back in week 1 with 32 fantasy points. He has a massive ceiling. So at 8.1K with nobody on him as a pairing with Josh Allen, I like it a lot. Is it risky? Yeah. Is it reserved for tournaments? Absolutely. But Keon Coleman is in play. Christian Kirk, shot in the dark, not somebody that I'm super confident in. Dawson Knox, no Dalton Kincaid, so just based off of the fact that he's going to be out there, I think he's okay. More of a flex play, but certainly we've seen instances where Knox goes out there and scores 2 touchdowns and kind of breaks a showdown slate. So, cheap enough at 6K to definitely keep that in your back pocket as far as what we can do in tournaments. Pretty good flex play too. He's gonna be really cheap, so I would definitely use him a lot in the flex, and maybe like a dash of him in the captain. Ty Johnson, 15 fantasy points last week, got a little bit involved. Usually going to make an impact as a receiver out of the backfield. I'm not really excited to play Bills running backs. Him, Ray Davis, you can do it because they save you a little bit of money. But I'd really look at them more in the flex if they're not going to be owned. Not super excited to play them in the captain. Tyrell Shavers, 19 fantasy points last week. I suppose we could chase that if we wanted to. That might elevate his flex ownership, but it doesn't look like he's going to be owned at all in the captain. If Keon Coleman comes back, nobody's going to play Shavers. If Keon Coleman is not in, Shavers might gain a little bit of steam. Either way, I think he's interesting as long as his ownership doesn't get out of control. 2 guys that are pretty damn interesting and not very expensive are Nick Chubb, who's not super involved, I'll give you that, but it is a short week. So maybe they don't want to overextend Woody Marks. Maybe they do want to lean on the run finally in this really positive matchup. And maybe Nick Chubb, who technically does still have the ability to be explosive, maybe he pops off here in a good spot at home. I don't think it's the worst try. I just don't think I'd play him and Woody Marks together. Jackson Hawes, he's probably going to get 2 to 3 targets a game. If Keon Coleman is not going to be utilized, and obviously there's no Kincaid, he's just going to be out there a little bit more. So if you do want to load up on this game, which I don't love that idea that much because it's probably going to be a low scoring game, then Jackson Hawes he's going to be in play. It's just not a guy that I would use a lot. Gabe Davis just depends on Keon Coleman. I think just a shot in the dark. He is an explosive player. A little bit expensive considering I don't think he's going to be like super involved, and he really needs to hit on a big play. But in the name, again, of just getting a low-owned option that does have a ceiling and can open up the salary a little bit, it's not the worst thing. Noel is a total shot in the dark. Ray Davis, total shot in the dark. And nobody else here really looks that good. So I looked over all the plays that I would gravitate towards, all the guys that I would look at in terms of tournaments over at dfsbuild.com. You can see exactly the ones I like the most in terms of safety and floor and also ceiling. And then we can look at some GPP plays to give you a more contrarian edge depending on what you want to do. I do think as far as strategy, I would lean Josh Allen heavily in the captain. I think it's just the safest, most logical play. If I'm only doing like one lineup or I'm limiting, how many lineups I'm doing. If I'm doing a lot of lineups, I definitely want to get to the Houston side of this game. I definitely want to target Woody Marks, maybe a dash of Nick Chubb, and I want to target Nico and Mills, of course, but I want to flip that a lot and target Mills first. And then if we get to like Jaden Higgins, Dalton Schultz, because they're not going to be very, very high owned, I think that's okay as well. Okay, so that's going to do it for me. Hopefully this helps you out. Just gives you another look at how to attack the slate, points you to some plays that maybe you weren't going to be on in the first place. If you want to come in and talk shop in our Discord, it's free to do so. You can share your lineups, ask everybody else who they're going to captain and what kind of strategy they want to have. And then, of course, hit up dfsbuild.com, just $5.99 a month for everything that we're doing. If you just like this free content, hit the subscribe button so you get it alert to turn on your notifications too. That actually will alert you. And then hit the like button because that helps us out quite a bit as well. All right, thanks for watching and good luck.